I think man creating music or art is almost in the DNA. They want to create something fresh, new, different.
My philosophy is very simple. If you can express a high level of emotion through something, whether it's a piece of music, the way you play it, or whether it's a piece of sculpture, to me that gives me the satisfaction of communicating that expression and expressing the emotion. Of course, there is a huge difference between something that you can touch, you can feel with your hands. Music is far more abstract.
I love this Victor Young 1952 composition called When I Fall in Love. There are some songs that are really almost made for the accordion, and there are some that are really difficult to perform on the accordion. Because I'm playing without any accompaniment, I try to make the music more interesting by using the single tone voicing complemented by some big heavy chords. When I feel like playing, when I feel like improvising, when I feel like drawing or sketching, I'll just do it. It's an impulse kind of a thing. You know, I may not do any art for weeks, and then I'll decide to do something, a sketch or a drawing or a portrait. One of my hobbies is drawing or sketching. My wife and I came back from Austria 3 years ago, visiting some of the camps that I was in. I came back and did a sketch of a prisoner. It came out from my emotions and my memories.
What surprised me about the face was that it was so serious. It ended up that person was truly a survivor, but someone who really suffered, who saw things and who witnessed things that ideally they did not want to witness or they did not want to see. Some of the names of the camps, both concentration camps and extermination camps, are on this red base.
Such beautiful music was created in Germany and Austria before the war, and such great art and science was generated in those countries. And nobody expected the fascist regime to become that powerful and that dangerous as it did in the mid to late 30s. It was totally unexpected. We had so much confidence in the German society and culture that we never expected that it would turn against so many people. That's one of the reasons why so many people stayed in Europe, because they couldn't believe that anything like this was going to happen. So basically they got stranded, they stayed in Europe and died because they had so much confidence in the German culture.
Saying goodbye to people has always been a very difficult thing for me. When I said goodbye to my mother or my brother, the next week they were gone, they were dead. So saying goodbye very often left some very, very serious, sad memories in my mind, and probably that was the reason why I was so attracted to some of this sentimental American music.
I've been focusing on creativity and innovation. We found out over the last 20 years that creativity can be taught, that it's not something that you are necessarily born with, and that there are thinking methodologies that can actually make people think more creatively. And so I've been focusing on that, and I've been teaching that in the School of Product Design at Purdue now for 15 years. I will develop a melody that's relative to what I've played, but slightly different. So design is very much similar to that. We very often improvise when we design something. We'll say, what if we did this? What if we try this? What if we try that? Music is very similar to that. It's so nutritional for me that I got to have it. You know, if I go away, I very often take the accordion with me. Bud Howard's Fly Me to the Moon, it was actually made popular by Frank Sinatra. I got on this kick of introducing it with a sort of a classical staccato fugue. The idea was to leave a legacy for the kids, to leave a memorable musical experience for them that basically came from my heart. Because everything I play, I play basically through my emotions and through my heart. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you may not be here, but your music might be an important element for your grandchildren and great-grandchildren to hear. I missed 4 years of elementary school. I went from first grade to junior high, which was tough for any kid. I had to make a lot of adjustments after the war, after I lost my mother and brother. A lot of it came from a certain amount of self-confidence and pride that was instilled to me by my parents when I was little. I think I had a pretty good level of self-esteem and self-value that helped me burrow through some of the difficult tunnels that I had to go through.
I wanted to commemorate the female suffering around the world. And it reminded me of my mother and my mother's suffering and eventually my mother's death in the gas chamber in July of 1944. As I started working on it, I would really get emotional about it because it was memorializing my mother's death. When it was almost finished, I wanted to give this some kind of a name or a number. I came up with this date when my mother went into the gas chamber in Auschwitz on July 11th, 1944. So the 11th of July, 1944. Those are the numbers. And then the V could be interpreted as either a victim or her first name was Vilma, V-I-L-M-A.
I got seriously into the accordion after the war when I was about 15. I was playing the piano and I was taking piano lessons, and I heard a lot of American music over the radio after the war through the Army American Network, U.S. Forces Europe Network. A lot of them had a jazzy insignia. The genre was something that appealed to me, and I remembered a lot of the good melodies that I liked, and I started playing them on the accordion. On the accordion, I fell in love with romantic American music. The fact that it's air-driven, it was closer to the human voice than a hammer instrument was. I've been trying to control that sound and control the level of the sound and make it variable the way the human voice has a tendency to be, all the way from a whisper to a strong, powerful tone. I took music seriously. I took piano pretty seriously. I would visit my piano teacher in Prague once a week and take lessons from her. I would walk up to her apartment. I could hear her practice the scales through the door before she opened the door. She lived at the piano. I got there one noon after lunch, and there was still chocolate pudding on the piano because she ate at the piano. And she picked up a handkerchief and wiped off the chocolate pudding, and we played. My parents were both pianists. We had a big piano in the apartment in Prague. I was surrounded by Chopin and by classical music from the time that I was 5 years old, 4 years old. So I fell in love with music then. It's easier to pick up the accordion and start playing than it is to go into the studio and start working on a huge piece of sculpture. Music is a quick way of expressing that creative impulse. There is still the desire to do something, to make something that's more permanent, because you play the music and it's gone the second you stop playing it. I mean, I can play 2 or 3 songs in a matter of a few minutes on the accordion, but it takes me sometimes 1,500 hours to work on a piece of sculpture and get it finished. My favorite composers are probably Rodgers and Gershwin. There are a few that have written some really great music that are not that well known. And Victor Scherzinger wrote some movie music. And one or two of his pieces, I Remember You, is a fantastic piece. What is satisfying when I'm doing a piece of art is the process, the fact that I see it evolve. I see it basically evolve from nothing to a very rough sketch or an idea to something that becomes more powerful, and that's something that becomes truly expressive of what I was trying to express. This is the tunnel, and these are the feelings that are inside this tunnel, and everything else that's outside of that tunnel has no meaning. I think the stuff that's lasted for 60, 70, 80 years is going to last for another 100 or 200 years. I think they are so generically honest and pure from a musical standpoint that they have already proven themselves to be lasting. So I'm optimistic about them lasting for another couple of 100 years. It's just like some of the work that Mozart did or Beethoven did. The melodies are so powerful and so logical that they should not deteriorate over time. struggling here because I'm playing as a single instrument. And unless I do things that make it more interesting and more engaging, like changing the tempo, changing the volume, unless I do all those things, it becomes boring and monotonous.
In terms of music, the emotional feeling that I want to portray is a feeling of beauty and love. Even if it's a sad piece of music, it's very touching and very loving. I think the same is true of art. When people find an emotional connection with a work of art, that's usually the work of art that they perhaps respect more or will remember more.
When I was in Auschwitz, the concentration camp in 1944, I heard this band play this song. Was a prisoner band. From the distance, I could hear this song being played, and it really caught my ear. I sang it to my dad, and he said, "Yes, that's an old Viennese song, and it's called Wien, Wien, Vienna, Vienna." It kind of romanticizes the city of Vienna. It was just very strange to be in this prison environment and hear this really beautiful song coming through the air. And at first I thought, gee, maybe it's a radio that somebody's playing, one of the guards playing a radio or something. But then I realized that it was the prison band that was playing it. And it's kind of stuck with me, for the rest of my life. If you turn the Viennese radio on or the German radio on, you can still hear that song. It's very popular. In spite of the fact that it's very beautiful, because of course it brings me the memories of that environment. The tremendous contrast between the unexpected element of music suddenly coming from this very morbid, dirty environment full of smoke and full of human ash in the air from the crematoria. The contrast between that and the music was just unbelievable. That place was so depressing. It was so horrendously depressing. It was, the music represented life, everything else represented death. The contrast was enormous. And for a 12-year-old to see that and to smell it and to hear it, it was horrendous, indescribable. If you look around the world, what's happening now, in Africa, in Middle East, it's a repetition of anger and hatred between various factions, various religions. It goes on. It's almost endemic to the human mind that somehow there is something wrong in the way the human mind works, the way it operates, that history keeps on repeating itself throughout the world. And you have very similar hatred going on between various religions, various groups that you had during the Second World War and during the First World War. It's a repetitive human syndrome that I don't know how you're going to ever correct. My life philosophy has been to be kind to people and try to help people as much as I could from the time that I was just a little kid. I followed my talents and my interest in art and design. So you need to find something that you really enjoy doing. That makes it so much easier to succeed. Be self-confident, be proud of who you are, have hope, respect other people. Don't make quick judgments about people, help people, be compassionate. Have your own set of values, have your own level of self-respect, because that's going to get you through some of the tough times.